Friday edition. It is Orange and Blue today. That means it's Cecil, Lammey, and Andrew Mason time, Denver Broncos time. And Mace, we have a preseason game that means something different than usually the second preseason game means.
It's more like the third preseason game in terms of the players that we're going to see. Because, of course, as Sean Payton announced after the joint practice on Thursday, we're going to see few starters in this game. We won't see Bo Nix. We won't see the regular offensive line. We won't see many key starters on defense. What we will see are plenty of guys battling for jobs, but in terms of the personnel that are going to be out there, this will look more like the final preseason game, whereas the final preseason game next week in New Orleans is going to look a bit more like this game. The second preseason game usually looks in terms of we'll see the starters get 8 to 10 plays, but that guy right there, the smiling face underneath the Broncos ball cap, that is Jarrett Stidham. We will see Jarrett Stidham start the game and play a substantial amount along with the number 2, number 3 offense. So Jarrett Stidham, we know, is on the team. We know he's the number 2 quarterback, but this is a chance to showcase a lot of guys who are really kind of fighting for their roles. And I think it'll be interesting, Cease, as we talk about Jarrett Stidham, to see kind of where Sean Payton has that cutoff as far as which players are going to play and which ones don't. At wide receiver, for example, where does he cut off, say, starters at wide receiver in terms of who's playing and who's not? Like, does he cut it off at, say, below Marvin Mims Jr. and we see Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, and Troy Franklin, Devon Vele, Pat Bryant?
Yeah.
Or do we see and Trent Sherfield, or with those guys looking like they are on the roster, does he even cut it off there and we go straight to Joaquin Davis and Kyrese Rowan and Jerwan Newton and Courtney Jackson, the undrafted guys? I'm actually curious to see kind of where the threshold is. I mean, is the threshold maybe past Troy Franklin and Devon Vele because those are returning players?
Right.
For example, like at tight end, I would say the threshold maybe is past Evan Engram and Adam Troutman.
Period.
So, Nate Adkins injured, of course. So at tight end, this is looking like a very heavy Caden Prescorn game, right? Caleb Lohner game. So this is one where maybe we get a real examination of Caleb Lohner, perhaps, and see where he is.
And Prescorn's been doing some good things in camp. I was going to say Lucas Krull.
Lucas Krull. Yeah.
We know Jarrett Stidham loves the tight ends. Man, whenever Evan Engram gets a rep with Jarrett Stidham, he gets the ball. So, I think if it's Krull, Prescorn, Lohner, Stidham's probably – and Stidham running the show, man, I'm excited for that part of it, Mace, because when we saw Stiddy start at the end of the Russ year and all those sacks, where's he at now? Where's he at now? I'm sure that the sack percentage should be lower.
It should, because he's processing quicker and he's getting the ball out quicker. Now, this stands to reason. The more you're in Sean Payton's offense, ideally, the quicker you're going through the reads. And just take the example of Teddy Bridgewater from 2018 to 2019. He arrives in Sean Payton's offense, end of the preseason, start of the regular season 2018. He plays at the end of that season, doesn't really go that well. He gets a full off-season training camp, preseason in there. Drew Brees gets injured. Teddy comes in. Lickety-split looks great for him. He does so well that he earns a starting job in Carolina and a starter's contract. So that's the thing. The more time you get in, and there's actually a history. Look at Jameis Winston. He started in that second year after backing up Drew Brees the first year. You get to that second year with Sean Payton, and if you're a quarterback of a reasonable amount of ability, you do better. You've gotten to a different level, and once you've mastered the complexity of things, you're able to go through the reads quicker. And as you and I often talk about, this offense, once you're able to read it and you get to the open man, there's someone open almost every play. You just have to find him. It was the wonderful thing about watching Bo Nix yesterday, that even though the Cardinals did a nice job of generating pressure, Bo Nix, whether it was immediate or after he was buying time escaping the rush, he was finding the open man. Like, okay, that is how this is supposed to work, because this scheme provides answers. It's one of the reasons why it does work so well, is because the way you have the route setting up and the way you create the options, there is an answer there, and the defense can't cut off every answer all the time. And so that's the reason why, for example, Jameis Winston in his second year in that offense in 2021, why he could be so effective in it and so efficient in it in a way that he had not been to that point in his career.
He's coming off 30 for 30.
Right. And then, he sits there for a year, marinates in it behind Drew Brees, plays just in spots when they need to go deep. And then 2021, early in 2021, it looked like the Saints were on a nice course to be a playoff team before he tore his ACL.
Yep.
And if the Saints are a playoff team that year, if Jameis Winston doesn't get injured, there's a chance Sean Payton might not be the coach of this team. Because if they're 11-6 in a playoff team, does Sean Payton resign at the end of that season? That's
a what if for you.
They're a heck of a what if, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, that's what happens when you get settled in this scheme and you're a quarterback of reasonable ability. And that's, I think, a reason why Jarrett Stidham looks comfortable. That being said, it hasn't always been perfect. I mean, that was not a good decision / good throw that we saw from Jarrett Stidham on Thursday. They got picked off. But okay, that's also been an exception to the rule of the broader sample size of Jarrett Stidham this summer. Overall, he's looked very good. He's made good decisions. He's been accurate. I expect what he does on Saturday to look more like the broader sample size of what we've seen throughout the summer.
I concur with that, my friend. I don't know if we'll see RJ Harvey, but I want to.
Yeah.
I want to. I know he's a co-starter, but he needs experience.
Yes, he needs reps. He needs reps. At the same time, if you're trying to make a decision as for who's going to constitute the back end of the depth chart at running back, and you have decided that RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins are 1-2 at the top, then you do need to figure that out. So on the one hand, you want to get RJ Harvey ready. On the other hand, did you accomplish that with 2 joint practices already in the books? And Sean Payton, because of how he views the joint practices, and he's decided with the 2 joint practices, I'm sitting my starters by and large for Saturday. Now, most of them, he did say most, not all. So it is possible we could see RJ Harvey in this game. That's the thing. He did not say all of them. He talked about Bo Nix. He talked about the offensive line, but he did not say all starters. So as y'all watching this, get ready to watch the game Saturday. I'd like to think most everybody watching this is going to watch the game anyway, even though you won't see Bo Nix, because there's still a lot of reasons to watch this game as we're diving into, like the running back competition, like seeing what those undrafted rookie receivers are going to do and who may end up being sticking on the practice squad, like the backup safety competition, like seeing what's going to go on with guys like Jordan Jackson and Iwazurike, like seeing, how it's going to look in terms of depth at inside linebacker. I mean, to me, there's plenty of things to take a look at this game. I mean, I'd like to see Jahdae Barron get plenty of work in this game to see how he continues to progress. So just because we're not seeing Bo Nix in this game we're not going to see Nick Bonito because he's got the spur in his foot, and we're not going to see guys like Zach Allen and Jonathan Cooper and Pat Surtain doesn't mean there's not a lot of meat on the bone in this game.
A ton of meat on the bone. And what did everyone say after the 49ers game? Wow, we got a lot of depth. Well, guess what you get to see Saturday?
We're going to see plenty of this depth, right? This is a showcase for depth here. Mm-hmm. I believe, if I'm just an approximate number, I believe there are 60 NFL quality players on this team, and of course there are 53 spots. And Sean Payton is talking about, I think, was it at wide receiver? I believe that he said that he expects you're going to see, but not necessarily wide receiver, but he expects that you're going to see guys that get cut that play in the league this year somewhere else, right? Okay, so you got quality. I mean, I would say at wide receiver that you're somebody who gets cut and ends up maybe latching on somewhere else. I think there's gonna be a wide receiver who maybe doesn't stick here, who ends up getting playing time and getting and putting up some stats somewhere else. The other thing to consider here is the Broncos may want to bring back a guy on the practice squad, but the player may feel they have a better opportunity to get on the field elsewhere. Remember Jalen Virgil last year? They wanted him back, but he thought there was a better path to playing time in Buffalo, so he went there. So just because the Broncos may want to bring back a player on the practice squad when they make the cut to 53 and even if they pass through waivers, doesn't mean that player may want to come back, because they may have options elsewhere. Ultimately, the player must choose that. As the Rolling Stones sang many years ago, you can't always get what you want.
All right. I remember Khalif Raymond.
Yes.
You and I had a great appreciation for Khalif Raymond, and he's been a key component for the Lions and what they do. So, Sean Payton, it's going to sting him if one of these guys goes somewhere else and turns into like a Khalif Raymond type of player. But, that's something you can't keep them all.
Yeah. Can you believe Khalif Raymond, man? I mean, the guy he's 31 years old. He's still in the league.
That's great. What, Holy Cross, right? He was Holy Cross, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So to come from Holy Cross, get a cup of coffee with the Broncos, and he showed well with the Broncos, and then to go be a key component of a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
That might happen to one of these guys that you're watching Saturday night.
Yeah.
So let's put a pin in that one, Mace.
The dude averaged 13.8 yards a punt return last year. I mean, that's pretty good, right?
Yep.
He's developed into, I mean, obviously you're in great shape with Marvin Mims Jr., of course, but he's developed in one of the league's best punt returners over the years, and he was here.
Yep.
And Broncos didn't hang on to him. I liked him too. Nice guy. I enjoyed having him around here, but happy to see him succeed. Just wish it would have been here. But again, there was a better opportunity for him elsewhere, and he bounced around. Jets, Giants, Titans, and then he really found a home with the Detroit Lions. But the thing is, he got to Detroit when they were at their low point. That was the thing. So he landed in Detroit when they were awful, when they were at their valley, and he's been there for their climb up. So that's been really cool. He's one of Dan Campbell's guys, truly.
Yep. Sean Payton finding his guys. We'll see him on Saturday. Before we get to some defensive talk, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Today's episode of Orange and Blue Today is presented by Ramos Law, the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos. Ramos Law was founded by Dr. Joseph Ramos, an attorney and ER doctor, to provide exceptional care to those injured in accidents. With a unique understanding of both medicine and law, the Ramos Law team is built to fight for you every step of the way. Experience the Ramos Law difference. Contact them today at ramoslaw.com.
All right, Mace, you mentioned no starters like a Zach Allen and Nick Benito, of course, with the Spur thing. Jonah Ellis, Andrea Tillman, you're up. I can't wait.
Yeah, been big preseason, big training camp for both. I mean, I've talked about how for Jonah Ellis, things really started to click when the pads went on in training camp. And he had a nice game last Saturday. Another guy who had a nice game last Saturday was Q Robinson. Of course, he missed some time early in training camp, but the corners really turned. He's really turned the corner. And then Tillman just really, it's been almost every day you've seen him flashing, consistently generating pressure, going all the way back to the practices that we were able to witness in OTAs and minicamp. So nice depth there on the edge. Broncos basically go 5 deep when you go Benito, Cooper, Tillman, Ellis, Q Robinson, with guys who can generate pressure. And Q Robinson, of course, has the special teams background as well. So that's a position where there's not a lot of suspense in terms of roster construction, it would seem. You'd expect all 5 to be there. By the way, Johnny Walker Jr., who's on injured reserve, we actually did see him off to the side. He's on IR, and he was in one of those kind of rolling. He had a boot on his right foot, and he had one of those rolling scooter things. Yes, yeah. He's had it up, but it's good to still see him around. But Broncos keeping him around, and I think want to see where he goes next year. Certainly, they were high on him, and you and I talked about it with him being one of their priority undrafted guys. It wouldn't have surprised either of us if they had 6 edges on the 53. That won't happen in all likelihood, but he's somebody they're going to look at long term. And by the way, Andrew Farmer's had a good camp as well. I don't know if there's room for him on the 53, but he keeps flashing. I think Andrew Farmer, if he wants to be here, unless there's a better opportunity elsewhere, I think Andrew Farmer is a good candidate to be on the practice squad.
I believe so, yes. And I think I talked about it on the radio. Like, Sean Payton's got a charm about him with talking guy. What's your vision? Like he did with Blake Watson. Like he's done with A.T. Perry.
Yeah.
There's a little charm there.
Yeah. A.T. Perry, by the way, I mean, he did return this week, but it's only been individual work for him to this point. So I doubt we'll see A.T. Perry in this game. And Sean talked a few days ago when I asked him about A.T. Perry, and they're basically building him back up. And remember, he didn't play at all. He didn't take part in OTAs or mini camp, and he was on the PUP list. So it's definitely a ramp up for him. And because he missed so much time, he's got so much to do in terms of catching up. So, I mean, I guess best case scenario is maybe we see him for a bit in the Saints game next week. I mean, I think the way this is trending, Cecil, I think for A.T. Perry, I guess this is probably looking like best case scenario is pass through waivers, practice squad, and kind of see where this goes if you can kind of turn the page on him. But there are only so many practice squad spots there. So, I mean, it's probably, even though there's a lot to like about him and he had that really promising rookie season back in 2023, it's just such a full room at wide receiver that he's kind of in a tough spot right now, even though certainly he's got a lot of knowledge of the scheme, and we know he's Pete Carmichael's guy because he was the guy kind of helped him come in, and certainly Sean Payton laid out the vision for A.T. Perry coming in, and he's spoken highly of him. He's saying he's smart. I always kind of take note of when Sean kind of goes out of his way to toss in a compliment. That's always really interesting if you ask him about a guy and he kind of throws in a compliment just kind of out of nowhere, because he does that with Jaleel a lot.
All the time.
He did that with A.T. Perry. Just, you're asking about a status of a player, and he just tosses in a compliment just as a non sequitur, right? Like he did, like he passed stats. Oh, he's smart. Or with Jaleel. Oh, he's diligent. It's all, these are things you kind of watch out for with Sean Payton, when he kind of the compliment out of nowhere that's not really connected to the question you're asking, and. You get these little hints that tell you that, okay, he may like this guy, a little bit more than maybe some others when he just sort of tosses that in there. So that there's maybe a little fondness. So that's why I'd be curious. There are going to be some tough decisions here, and you do get the sense that they're going to be even tough practice squad decisions for this team, because of the talent that they have. But
you and I'd have 4 receivers on the practice squad if it was allowed. That's how talented the guys that aren't going to make the team.
It's a good group. I mean, the thing we've talked about this with the rookie wide receivers. All of them bring something. I mean, we were talking about Jerwan Newton yesterday. That's the second time in camp he's made this catch down the right sideline in double coverage when Sam Ehlinger's kind of thrown up a moon ball that I'm not sure was the most well-advised pass, but Juwan came down with it. And perhaps that pass he threw yesterday, he takes a shot with it because Juwan came down with a pass like that earlier in camp. Like, I'm not going to try that with everybody, but I'm going to try that with this guy because he can come down with it. So, I mean, Juwan is also interesting because he's got slot capability, and you and I have talked about this. Even though Michael Bandy continues to make plays in camp, he just catches everything.
Yep.
He's at an older stage in his career, so do you bring him back as a practice squad guy to play the role of slot receiver on scout team when you really do know what he is at this point? Or do you hand that role to a Juwan Newton, who's a rookie who has upside as an undrafted guy? So it's like, okay, Michael Bandy, we appreciate you, but we know what you are, and here's a rookie, and we kind of, and the book is just beginning. We're just starting to turn the pages, and we don't know what you are yet. And we want to find out a little bit. And it's a cutthroat business, but these are the sorts of conversations that do end up being had. And if it's a tie on all counts, the team is probably going to go with the younger player that has upside. I mean, is it fair? Probably not. Like, it's not necessarily fair to the older player, but these are things that do come into play here because Juwan can be a slot receiver on scout team. And this is also something that matters as well, because when you're putting together a practice squad, part of it is between the practice squad and then the guys on the back end of your 53 putting together a scout team that can go against your starters in practice, because there is a function to the practice squad as well. It's not just about development. It is about a scout team to get your starters ready for Sunday. So there's multiple things going on here as you're doing this. And so that's why you can't just keep all the receivers in the world, because, hey, you got to keep some O linemen and D linemen, because you got to be able to have a scout team to go against to prepare for the games. So there's all sorts of competing interests going on here.
Yeah, well, we'll be interested in Saturday night. I know no starters is going to sting, but this is the type of game for you and me.
Yeah, we need to talk about safeties too, because this is also where you need to pay attention to special teams out there if you're watching this, because we've heard this multiple times from the coach. Special teams will determine backup safety. That is going to be the huge part of this. So is it going, where does PJ Locke fit in? Well, PJ Locke was a terrific special teamer earlier in his career, but that's not really you don't really see him out there anymore. So does that mean he's on the bubble right now because that's not part of his role? I mean, you like his presence for experienced depth, but if he's not playing on teams and you're forced into a crunch, does that mean he is, he's in trouble roster-wise when Sam Franklin is a huge special teamer, and you signed him for that role? J.L. Skinner, Darren Rizzi on Wednesday, when I asked him about J.L. Skinner, identified him as a core 4 guy. So that's something to note as well. Devin Keekins plays special teams as well. Delarian Turner-Yell, very much a bubble guy, but we know pre-ACL injury, he was one of the Broncos' better special teamers. Keedron Smith is a guy that last year played on a lot of special teams when he was going early in the season, and then practice squad guy. So, yeah, special teams and what they do matters. J.L. Skinner, I think, probably has a little bit of an advantage here because you see him, you watch his intensity, in his gunner jammer role. Like he's a hair on fire guy. And you can kind of see Rizzi seems to kind of like the way he goes about things in that phase. And I just wish it would come together for him on defense, because man, the energy he brings the energy he brings on coverage is palpable, man. Like he's kind of becoming one of the glue guys in that unit as well. So I think he's going to end up sticking on the 53. I just hope at some point, kind of like with PJ Locke a few years ago, that the special teams work ends up translating to him becoming a better defensive player, because oftentimes it does. You get good in that phase, and then it translates over to what you can do on defense or offense. I hope that happens for JL, because certainly the speed of the game, the intensity of the game, it really manifests, and he's become an excellent special teams player.
And not every college player with studly traits is going to do that, so props to JL.
It was interesting, Rizzy talked about scouting JL when he was coming out of Boise and noticing how he played and thinking about how that could translate as well, and being excited about working with him when he got here, and now kind of seeing that and really being encouraged about how that's manifested, getting a chance to work with him too. So like that's another key thing that came in. But it doesn't surprise me that it's worked out for him on teams, but that's something to keep an eye on as well. So the kickoff and punt coverage and kickoff return and punt pro, that's something to watch. And also to go back to special teams, that's watch that at running back too, and the running back's roles in that phase and how that could end up determining who ends up being RB3 and RB4 if they end up keeping 4 on the 53-man roster. That's another key thing too.
Plenty to watch in this preseason game.
This is such a meaty game, Cecil. I don't care if there's not going to be Bo Nix in this game. This is such a fascinating game for me.
Yeah, it's good for guys like me and you, and hopefully for our audience as well, right?
Well, I'd like to think our audience appreciates games like this.
I believe they will.
Talking about you out there. If you're still watching this show 27 minutes in, as we've talked about backup safeties and fifth edge rushers and
A.T. Perry
and ninth and 10th wide receivers here, if you're still watching this show right now, yes, you appreciate this sort of thing. So I think so.
We appreciate you,
Yes,
Mace. How can they really show their appreciation here on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell.
So that's you.
Never miss a vid.
That's right. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.